I normally print my reflections on single-sided paper. Today I accidentally did it on both sides, which means I have to flip the page, which sounds easy. It's not as easy as it sounds, and if I look like I'm lost, I am. So my father used to tell me that you cannot legislate morality. My dad was sort of a softy political conservative. All of his kids are radicalized liberals. Generally speaking, he was a conservative. And this is a slogan that sort of explained his brand of political conservatism. And I think there's some truth to the slogan. As evidence, I'd have you consult your news feed. We spent the last half of the 20th century trying to legislate our way to a more moral world. And it ain't working. The problem with that slogan, however accurate it may be, is that it's got the wrong end of the analysis. You see, legislation isn't supposed to be good at making immoral people moral. Rather, legislation is good at making immoral behavior illegal. Legislation is not good at transforming people. What it is good at, when it's good at anything, is stopping people and systems from doing bad things. Not good at changing, good at stopping. So yes, correct. You cannot legislate morality. But morality isn't the point of legislation, Dad. You can still use it to stop bad ideas from thriving, though. And yet, what I like about the slogan is that it gives primacy to morality in the outcomes of human and planetary dramas. Laws have limits. And without moral transformation, laws are merely a container for an untamed beast. And at some point, as we have seen in the past, and as I believe that we are seeing right now, the beast can become stronger than the container. Immorality can swamp law. I think that we're seeing that now. Of course, one person's morality is another's sanctimony. And we have certainly seen folks attacked out of a twisted set of moral beliefs. So this talk of morality can cut both ways and can be a slippery slope. I recognize that, but I don't think that it is contested should dissuade us from making a moral claim. And another cautionary note, your morality means little until it is tested by tribulation. And that's a lot, by the way, like our principles and our covenant, is it not? It's easy to say all people have inherent worth. It's easy to say you will stay in community while differences are resolved. It's easy to say that love is our guide, that you will ask questions with an open heart. But what about when some worthies are acting immorally or just irritatingly? Are you sticking to your principles? What happens when someone here behaves rudely? Do you still aspire? What happens when it becomes dangerous to profess that all people have inherent worth? What will you do when that puts your family in jeopardy? It's happened before to large, Western, educated countries. And there are those who, it seems, are seeking to make it happen again. And they have great power. For they are riding a wave of immorality and manipulating the dark side of our culture's character and convincing them, or you, or us, to sacrifice principle on the altar of power. So let me be clear. It is immoral to construe other as enemy. It is immoral to separate children of asylum seekers from their parents. It is immoral to deploy a fighting force to confront a group of people seeking help and safety. It is immoral to do so as an actual strategy or as an act of political theater. It is immoral to encourage violence against people expressing opposing opinions and asking hard questions. It is immoral to erase the legal identities of people. It is immoral to line one's pockets with the profits of lies, distortions, extortions, evasions, and payoffs, and fear. It is immoral to suggest that it is okay to demean anyone for their physical ability, gender, heritage, or sex. And it is obviously immoral to bring violence on those you perceive as other. And therein lies the heart of the problem. Not violence. Violence is not, in my estimation, in and of itself immoral. It is a means to an end. Sometimes it is even necessary, but only in the rarest and most acute of situations. Now, violence is not the heart of the matter. Otherness ideology is. Otherness ideology seeks to dehumanize all who its apostles believe is different from them. Once the necromancy of dehumanization has begun, the practice of scapegoating is just around the corner. And now our problems can be offloading onto the other, who then can be persecuted, prosecuted, and oppressed, erased. Otherness ideology is a contagious strategy. It is contagious. It is a contagious strategy promulgated by the far right. President Trump has gone further, though. He has coupled otherness ideology with hateful and, yes, violent rhetoric, encouraging his froth-mouthed rally attendees to punch his opponents in the mouth, offering to pay their bail. In fact, just a week or so ago, there was a rally, I think it was in Montana, where Trump endorsed a congressman who had physically attacked a reporter, saying, and I quote, "Any guy who could do a body slam, he's my guy." Last week, I attended a vigil for those who were murdered at the Tree of Life Synagogue. There, Tucson Mayor Rothschild reminded us that you cannot separate the ideology of hate from the violence it gives rise to. Say that again. You cannot separate the ideology of hate, from the violence that it gives rise to. The president's rhetoric has embraced hateful words, and he has explicitly endorsed violence. He has absolutely tapped into, exploited, and adopted an ideology of hate. And you cannot separate that from the violence it inspired and abetted. And so it is that I lay the slaughter of 11 Jewish elders in Philly at the president's feet. I lay the murder of 2 black grandparents by a white nationalist at the president's feet. I lay the narrow misses of mail bombs sent to his opponents at the president's feet, and I lay the so-called suicides of 3 Ferguson protesters at the president's feet. All over this country, right now, people are being physically and verbally attacked as their attackers invoke the name of Trump. Does the president tell them to stop? Does he emphatically, publicly, unequivocally distance himself from the criminal bullies, murderers, and hate mongers? If not at all, or if at all, it is clearly not enough. I haven't heard him signal anyone to stop invoking him. Tyranny rides the waves of immorality. Tyranny leverages people out of their principles by fear that you are not enough. If you join this movement, says the tyrant, you will be strong-jawed, virile, a champion that deserves adoration rather than your pot-bellied, mouth-breathing, couch-potatoed self. But it's a lie. Of course it's a lie. Inspirational as it evidently is, it's a lie. And when you sell your soul to that, I guess it's easier to abandon your principles, to let your morality die when you have no soul. Now we Unitarian Universalists, we say we love you. Your potbelly is great. Or not. We kind of don't care. We believe your worth is not dependent on your belly being pot or pan, or your career, or your age, the angle of your jaw, or your employment status. We don't care. You are already worthwhile. We believe you are a worthy person capable of dignity without relevance to accomplishment or mistake or talent. We believe that when you accept that, it is all the more easy to behave in a dignified, composed, and compassionate way. A way that can, when applied, reveal deep connection and meaning in your life, and possibly even redemption. And this is our test. If this is true, this is who we need to be, right? If we profess this, we need to embrace our own worth and dignity and behave in dignified and compassionate ways that reveal deep connection and meaning. And when connected to compassion and dignity through our inherent worth, we believe that you will have the strength of your convictions. We believe that you will have the power of principle back, that the wisdom to discern when and how to apply those principles contextually will be yours in a way that grounds you in a life-giving morality that avoids sanctimony and steers us clear of narcissism. That is our hope and faith. But this is a dance. This country, this state, this congregation, this reality, we are all here and we are all sharing in it. And because of that, I can't help but wonder how I have contributed to the current state of affairs. How I am the current state of affairs. What of me, what of us is reflected in what we see? How have we contributed by complicity or ignorance or dismay or mere outrage? If I am inextricably linked to and bound up with and interdependent with oppressors and the oppressed, what am I to do? So, I like football. And when times get tough in football, coaches frequently take their teams back to the basics. So let's get basic. Our Western tradition, and not only our Western tradition, but almost every tradition that I can think of, has a basic moral compass rule, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then some smarty pants came along and said, there's a platinum rule. It's a new rule. It's a platinum rule. Do unto others as they would have done unto themselves. Do unto others as they would have done unto themselves. But some people aren't very kind to themselves, so I am hesitant to invoke that. But I think there's a new rule emerging yet. What you do to others, you do to yourself. What you do to others, you do to yourself. This rule arises out of the concept of interbeing. Interbeing comes to us from the Buddhist tradition and has been popularized for the most part by Thich Nhat Hanh. And it taps into this very ancient idea of mutual arising. Everything depends on everything else and it all arises at once. And one step further, everything is part of everything else and arises at once. This is because that is. I am because you are. It's also reflected a little bit in our seventh principle, where we affirm and promote the inherent web of interdependence, of existence. But interbeing goes beyond just dependence, where it's a house of cards or a spider web. Interdependence. Interbeing is actually where we are of one another, where we are of our relationships. So the implications here are that every encounter with a person or experience that you have mirrors something in yourself, is a part of you. And it goes beyond people, though. So take the soil. We depend on the soil. We depend on the health of the soil. Without healthy soil, we have no food, and we perish as a planet. So we depend on the soil. So that's interdependence. Interbeing thought says, no, I am the soil. So that's a subtle but important difference. Consider what it was. Imagine how it would change your behavior and your thinking to consider that not only do you depend on the soil, but you are the soil. You are the soil. How are we treating the soil? By the way, next week is soil communion. So you'll have a chance to bring a piece of yourself and leave it here with us. Interbeing suggests or confirms that the pain that we feel in the world at large is not irrelevant, is not information that we are receiving, but is in fact of us. That our compassion is a connection. So how would knowing that change how you behave? What you do to others, you do to yourself. Now, let's do it. If you're with me so far at all, take a look at the person next to you. You partake in one another. You are of one another. You are mirrors of one another. You are in many ways one. You are both of the earth. You are both and all of the cosmos. You feel the push and pull of that. You interexist, each articulations of a unity. So what would that do to you? How would that change you? I think it would change my orientation to life, change my purpose, so that my life becomes one of gift giving, of service and compassion, in service to the soil, in service to one another. And even in our limited view of the whole, we will still sense the ramifications of that shift. We are one, we inter-are, we are each other, we are the world. We are the soil. All right, so that exercise that you just did with your neighbor, the person that you're next to, or you came with maybe you know that person, you inter-are, you are of one another, you are one. Now apply that to someone you despise. How? Well, perhaps our final song will guide us. Please rise in body or spirit. Join together as one voice singing "Love Will Guide Us." Number 131. We will reprise the first verse after the benediction.